Hi guys, and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron, and welcome back today to another live stream. Hope you all are doing well. We're going to have a chat about Moise Kean this morning and whether or not he could stay at Everton Football Club going into next season. He has returned to USM Finch Farm. A lot of people expected him to return a couple of weeks ago when the majority of the players did return, but of course with COVID and phased returns and stuff, he wasn't part of that first group of players that were due to return on Monday last week it was. So he's actually returned earlier in the weekend. I think he returned on Saturday. He was present at USM Finch Farm whilst Everton's game against Accrington Stanley was going on. He wasn't playing in the game because he'd only just returned to Finch Farm, and I fully expect Moise Kean has been training this week with the team as well, hopefully getting himself ready for the Florida Cup and for a good pre-season at Everton. And the big sort of question surrounding Moise Kean, and I suppose one of the biggest talking points surrounding Everton at the moment, is whether or not Moise Kean will stay at Everton next season, or whether or not Everton will allow him to leave. Obviously, we know under Carlo Ancelotti, Moise Kean wasn't massively favoured, didn't get a lot of opportunities under Carlo Ancelotti in the 2019-20 season. Obviously went out on loan last season to PSG after, again, not a massively successful pre-season and not a great start to the season either. He went out on loan to PSG and he done fantastically well. Let's have it right, he done brilliant. He was scoring goals in the Champions League, he was scoring goals in Ligue 1, and he looked really, suited to that fit with the likes of Neymar and Mbappe and, those type of players in and around him. He never really looked out of place, he never really looked uncomfortable in a squad full of really, really good players. And I know it's very easy for a footballer to look brilliant while he's playing next to some of the best footballers in the world. I get that, but he was never really sort of just used as a substitute. He was never really just sitting on the bench. He was often starting, he was often playing 90-minute matches, scoring goals and getting in the mix, and like I said, looking comfortable around those types of players, not looking like he was overwhelmed, not looking like he was sort of just a young lad and in a small fish in a big pond. He looked like he could deal with that pressure, and he did, scoring goals in the new camp in the Champions League, scoring goals in Ligue 1 on various occasions as well. And obviously a lot of the rumours last season were that Moise Kean was happy at PSG, he was settled, and that's where he wants to spend at least the foreseeable future. And I feel like those are still the rumours that are getting fed to us. We're still hearing things that Moise Kean would prefer to move back to PSG, wants to go back over to Paris, and he wants to play there next season. However, obviously Carlo Ancelotti has left Everton Football Club now, so Carlo Ancelotti's opinions on Moise Kean and how he feels about Moise Kean don't matter at all anymore. Unless he wants to sign him for Real Madrid, which is highly unlikely, they don't matter anymore. What matters is Rafael Benitez's opinion on Moise Kean and what Rafael Benitez wants to do with Moise Kean, and everything that we've been reading in the media over the last week or so points towards Rafael Benitez wanting to keep Moise Kean at Everton Football Club. Now, I must say, Carlo Ancelotti did say about 12 months ago, before Moise Kean went out on loan, that he did want to keep him and he wanted them to be a part of the squad, and I firmly believe that the decision to allow Moise Kean to join PSG was because Moise Kean wanted to join PSG and wasn't happy with where he was at Everton. I do think at that time Carlo Ancelotti would have probably preferred to keep him, and I do think that if Carlo Ancelotti was still the Everton manager, he'd want to keep him now, but he's not the Everton manager, and I don't really care what Carlo Ancelotti is up to be honest with you. I care what Rafael Benitez is up to and what Rafael Benitez's thoughts on Moise Kean are. And like I said, according to a lot of journalists, according to a lot of reports in the media, Everton are not open to allowing Moise Kean to leave on loan. Everton apparently have said that they'll either keep Moise Kean or they'll sell him on a permanent deal. They're not interested in loaning him out again, which is sort of music to our ears, really, isn't it? Because all of the rumours surrounding PSG that we've been hearing recently are pointing towards PSG wanting to sort of try their luck a little bit and get another loan out of Moise Kean with a potential option to buy at the end of it, and that just doesn't work for Everton. That would be the worst case scenario in this situation. You've got three scenarios. You either keep Moise Kean and utilise him as a member of the squad next season, which could be brilliant because he could settle into the club, he could like Rafael Benitez's tactics and way of playing more than he did with Carlo Ancelotti's, and he could actually get his head down, work really hard and be a success in the Premier League. Obviously, that could go the other way, and he might struggle again. He might struggle to keep up with the pace of the league, the physicality of the league, and he mightn't be a success. So you've got that option. You've got the option of, selling Moise Kean on a permanent deal and making some money back, which of course is something that is heavily talked about given Everton's current financial situation with FFP. And I think one of the biggest questions is if we are to keep Moise Kean this summer, what do we then do in regards to bringing in players? Who do we sell? Where is that leeway? Because I think a lot of Evertonians were bagging on Moise Kean leaving the football club this summer, and that was, going to be our entrance into spending all of this money and improving these areas like right back and right wing and left wing, etc., because we were going to be able to sell Moise Kean for, 30-40 million pounds, make a little bit of money, and then be able to spend a little bit more than that on improving the squad. Whereas at the moment, because of FFP and how close Everton are to actually, to going over that line where we'd be in a lot of trouble with FFP, we can't really afford to just be going out and splashing a load of money without selling players. And if Moise Kean isn't going to be one of those players, then you just sort of ask yourself who those players will be. And they're the only two options for Everton. The third option of loaning Moise Kean back out and allowing him to go again for another year for no transfer fee, with the the potential that PSG might want to sign him at the end of the second year, is an absolute nonsense. And I'm glad that Everton have stood up and said no, that's an absolute nonsense, because they did get to a point last week, the week before, where I thought, we're just going to let him go out on loan here. We're going to bow down to PSG's needs, and we're going to let him go out, or PSG's wants, and we're going to let him go out on loan again. They're going to see him for another year. They're going to play another year of his contract down, and then they're going to say, well, right, okay, we probably would have given you 30 last summer, but we're only going to give you 10 now because he's another year down his contract. And if we loan him again for another year, then we'll get him for free the season after because his contract runs out. So absolutely not. It's a nonsense sort of option that PSG are trying to give Everton, and I'm glad that Everton have stood up against it. I'm so glad that Rafael Benitez and Everton Football Club have stood up and gone, no, we're not sending him back out on loan, or at least that's what a lot of the reports are stating, is that Everton will not send him out on loan. People like Ben Islington, people like Fabrizio Romano saying that Rafael Benitez is a fan of the player, wants to keep the player, and will only allow the player to leave if a permanent move is made, if a bid comes in for him. Now this puts obviously the situation onto PSG, doesn't it? It puts the ball in PSG's court as to say, look, if you really want this player, come out and bid a considerable amount of money, an amount of money that we deem as a football club is suitable for this player, and then we'll let him go to you. If you don't want to bid the money, if you want to sit there and pretend like you've got no money, even though you're probably the richest club in world football, even though you'll be paying Mbappe however many hundreds of thousands of pounds a week, and if Neymar gets a new contract, he'll be getting probably 250, 300,000 pounds a week. You've got these various players on massive contracts, but you can't fork up 25, 30 million pounds for a player who you so desperately want. That's fine. You don't sign him. And it's the same with any other club. PSG aren't exclusive in this. Moise Kean, PSG aren't the only club Moise Kean can move to this summer. If Juventus come back in, who were rumoured, 12 or 18 months ago about wanting to bring him back, if any other football club comes in for Moise Kean, I do think Everton would sell if the deal or if the bid is feasible. And that's where we are at the moment with Moise Kean, isn't it? Is ultimately the question of the live stream is, could Moise Kean leave Everton this summer? Well, yes, absolutely he could leave Everton this summer. Do I think he'll leave Everton on loan? No. And I'll be absolutely furious at the football club if he does leave Everton on loan, to be honest with you, because I think it'd be a ridiculously stupid decision. It's another year of his contract getting played down. Therefore, it's another 10, 15 million off as an eventual sort of sale price. And again, as a lot of journalists are reporting, and as Rafa Benitez seems to be reporting, if you want to buy him, then buy him. I don't go into a shop, do I? I didn't go into the Apple shop the other day to look at the new iMac and go, okay, so it's going to cost me 18 months over 2 years. What I'll do is I'll loan it for 12 months. I won't pay anything. I'll loan it for 12 months, and then I'll come back in 12 months, and because it's already 12 months old, I'll give you 700 quid for it instead. Because they'd look at me and laugh and go, no, you either want it and pay the money, or you don't want it and you get off. And that should be the same situation with this, isn't it? PSG either want Moise Kean and will pay I don't know what the asking price is that Everton are looking for, maybe 25, 30, 35 million, something like that. Or, see you later, there's the door. Shut it on your way out. You can take a free biscuit if you want. That's it. Be all and end all, and I'm happy that Everton seem to be having that stance, and I'm happy that Rafael Benitez seems to be having that stance. Now, obviously, the big sort of question mark here is Moise Kean himself. Now, it's very easy for us to sit here as fans and say, you know, it's black and white. You either, you know, you pay the money or you don't pay the money. You either sign him on a permanent or you don't sign him at all. But you do have to take into consideration how the player is feeling in this type of situation, because I can't help but feel that Moise Kean wants to leave Everton Football Club this summer. You know, countless amounts of times throughout last season, there was heavy rumours coming from, again, really reliable journalists, the likes of Fabrizio Romano and various other journalists, suggesting that Moise Kean absolutely wants to stay at PSG. There was always, the narrative around the deal has always been that Everton would prefer to sell him and PSG wanting to loan him. There was a couple of rumours, you know, a couple of weeks back, stating that PSG might put an option to buy in there for 30 to 35 million, something like that, but they still want another loan deal. But there's one thing that remained sort of pretty much solid throughout the entire course of Moise Kean's loan at PSG last season and to present day, is that the player seems like he really wants that move. And look, again, can you blame him? This is a young lad who come over from Juventus, you know, was promised a lot at Everton Football Club. It didn't quite work out for whatever reason, whether that be because he just wasn't good enough in the Premier League, whether that be because he couldn't keep up with the physicality, the pace of the league. He went out to PSG, he's living in Paris, you know, one of the nicest and biggest cities in the world. And again, I know Liverpool is as well, but he's gone from an environment where doesn't seem comfortable and he's not playing his best football, to an environment where, again, he's living in a big city, obviously, you know, again, a beautiful city. He's played next to the likes of Mbappe, Neymar, and he's playing in a side that ironically didn't win the league last season, but typically win the league every single season, win trophies, and he won a cup there and challenge in the higher ends of the Champions League. Moise Kean has gone from being on the bench in a game that Everton are playing at Goodison Park against Newcastle on a Wednesday night and coming on for the last 5 minutes, to playing in a Champions League quarter-final at the Nou Camp and scoring in a Champions League quarter-final at the Nou Camp as well. So you can understand why he would want that move. He's been there for a year, he seems comfortable, he's obviously liked by the playing staff, he's obviously liked by the management staff as well. Leonardo, who's PSG's director, I believe, has spoken very highly of him. So I've got nothing against, and I've got no surprises that Moise Kean would want to move back to PSG. It doesn't surprise me whatsoever. We have to take the Evertonian thing out of these types of situations and look at Moise Kean as a young footballer who's not an Evertonian, hasn't grown up an Evertonian, his dream hasn't been to play for Everton. His dream is to play for the best teams in the world and to get into his national team and play there consistently. And if he moves to PSG, he'll be playing for one of the best teams in the world. Now, obviously PSG feel like, because Moise Kean's view seems to be that sort of, you know, that focused on returning to PSG, that they've got all the cards in this situation. They obviously seem to think that it's okay, because if we offer Everton 40 million, they'll take it. But why would we do that when we can maybe offer them another loan deal or a lot cheaper than that? And the player's going to go back there anyway and say, I really want this move, and try and force this move through. So the ball, PSG seem to think is in their court. But what PSG maybe failed to realise, and what maybe we all failed to realise, is that Everton have got a new manager now. Everton have got Rafael Benitez in. Now, whether you like Rafael Benitez or not, and whether you agree with this decision or not, nobody can argue that this is a fresh start for a lot of Everton players. It's a fresh start for us as fans. Now, I'm not trying to suggest that certain players should stay because Rafael Benitez is the manager. They shouldn't. There should be a list of players there that Rafael Benitez doesn't even get to choose about, because, you know, the club have determined they're not good enough, and the club have determined they'll be sold if we get an offer for. But Rafael Benitez will be looking at Moise Kean and thinking, okay, young, hungry centre forward. We brought him in for a lot of money a couple of seasons ago. He had a really successful loan move out to a PSG. Okay, he wants to move there on a permanent, but how could we utilise this player going forward? And Moise Kean might have been returning to USM Finch Farm on Saturday, and he might have been driving into Finch Farm thinking, I hope that this is one of the last times I ever you know, come into here. I don't want to be I'll sign up because I've got to, but I don't want to be I hope I get me moved to PSG. Now, he might have left on Saturday having had a conversation with Rafael Benitez, having had a conversation with Marcel Brands, having looked at the game, the training game, having met the players again and got back into that. You know, he was all smiles on the video, on the picture. He might have left and gone, actually, do you know what? this isn't too bad. I quite like the environment here. The new manager seems good. His plans seem good. He seems like he wants to use me in the right ways in the Premier League next season. Now, he might have come back the next day thinking, okay, let's see what the day brings, and left thinking, actually, do you know what? Maybe I will want to stay here. You know, and again, you know, he might be there today thinking, do you know what? I'm actually enjoying my time training with Everton. I'm enjoying my time being back at the football club. We don't know. Moise Kean could be sitting there now in Finch Farm going, you know, belling somebody at PSG, going, hurry up and make this bid, hurry up and make this decision, because I want to come back. And it'll take a lot of convincing from Rafael Benitez to change Moise Kean's mind, I think, because this is a young lad who's gone from playing in the Champions League and scoring in the Champions League and playing next to some of the best players in the world, who now returning to Everton to watch Fabian Delph and Alex Iwobi in training, and we're trying to convince him to stay at the football club. Now, some people would argue against that, and some people would say we shouldn't be convincing him to stay at the football club because he's not that great anyway. Again, for me, it's pretty simple. I want Moise Kean to stay at Everton unless Everton receive a 25, 30, 35 million pound bid for him now. Not PSG take him on loan for another season and then we receive a bid maybe in 12 months if they want to. Not that, you know, PSG might buy him off us on a permanent if we let him go back on loan. None of that nonsense. You either pay for him now or he stays at Everton Football Club. Because ultimately, and we'll talk about FFP in a moment, we'll get in the live comments, then I want to talk about FFP and how Moise Kean and whether or not he stays or goes could affect Everton's transfer business this summer. And we will talk about that in a second. But Everton can't afford to be loaning Moise Kean out again. It's simple. It's as plain as that. It's as plain as that. Everton can't afford to be doing that. Everton can't afford to lose a player and not gain any financial benefit from said loss of player. We can't afford it. We simply can't afford it. We need to, you know, make as much money as possible if we're going to be allowing players to leave. But who knows what's going to happen with Moise Kean personally? Look, if you were to ask me now, on the spot, Cam, do you think Moise Kean will be an Everton player next season? I'd say no. Because I do think that PSG will come in with a bid, and I do think that Everton will look at the situation and go, okay, you know, if this player doesn't want to be here and we need to make a little bit of money in order to give us a bit more leeway with FFP, it's probably the best decision for all parties to allow Moise Kean to move on. But the reality of the situation is, PSG are trying to play hardball. PSG are trying to avoid having to make a permanent bid. So they might sit there at the end of all this and go, no, do you know what? He was good, he done a decent job, but we're not paying the money, so we'll move away from it. And Moise Kean might end up being an Everton player next season. Or Moise Kean might, in the time that PSG are trying to, you know, again, sort of play us a fiddle and trying to find a situation in which they don't have to pay a permanent deal. Moise Kean, as I've said, might have been at Finch Farm for the last 4 or 5 days or so and might be really enjoying it. I might turn around and go, actually, do you know what? I want to test myself in the Premier League again. I want to see if I'm good enough in this league again. Who knows? I do want to talk about FFP and the financial implications of Moise Kean's deal, whether or not he leaves or not, and how that could affect Everton's incoming transfer business this summer. But let's get into some of the live comments before we do that. If you're enjoying, by the way, hit that like button. It does only take a second. Early one this morning, really early one. I've got to get on a bus or a train in about an hour or so to make it over to Toffee TV earlier this afternoon. So that's why it's a little bit early this morning. But I hope you all are enjoying. I hope you all are okay. I hope you've got your cup of tea, your cup of coffee, your cereal. I don't know if anybody's working from home or working from the office and got us on the cheeky on the little computer in the background. Big thanks if you have. Really do appreciate it. If you did that like button, that would mean a great deal to me. And if you're new to the channel, if you don't mind subscribing, that would be boss as well. Rafael Benitez, just on a side note, has got his first press conference as Everton manager. That is taking place at 1:30 this afternoon at USM Finch Farm. It's being live streamed on YouTube. We'll have all the updates on our Twitter, so if you're working or you've got a meeting and you miss it, we will be updating on pretty much every single word that comes out of Rafael Benitez's mouth on our Twitter account. So if you follow us at MightyBluesYT, you'll be able to keep up to date with that press conference. And we'll probably also do a little video later on tonight, just recapping the press conference and what was talked about. And I assume, by the way, that Rafael Benitez will be asked a question about Moise Kean in the press conference today, because I assume it'll be quite a thorough press conference. He'll probably be asked the usual questions and the usual elephant in the room about, the other lot. But I would assume that he would be asked the question about Moise Kean and Moise Kean's future as well. And Rafa Benitez might turn around and go, yeah, spoke to him yesterday. He's brilliant. He seems like he's dedicated. He wants to stay. He wants to get his head down. And this might be a different conversation come tomorrow, but who knows? Alex says, getting a brew made for me while I'm watching is right, mate. Alex says, what does FFP stand for? Financial fair play. It stands for, even though it should really be FFUP, because it's really financial. Oh no, FUFP, because it's really financial unfair play, because it basically just means that the teams that make the most money can spend the most money, which isn't really fair play, is it? A football fan's thought says, morning Cam, morning mate, hope you're doing well. Doug says, your voice is sounding like it's coming back, hope you're feeling better soon, Cam. Yeah, it is. It's alright, to be honest with you. It probably sounds a little bit croaky because I've not long woken up, but it's good, to be honest with you. Thank you very much, mate. I hope you're feeling good as well, Doug. Alex says, hello Cam, hope you're doing good. Could this be time to give Beningame some game time? Delph won't get a game and we don't know if Gbamin can stay fit. Well, we spoke about the Accrington Stanley friendly yesterday, didn't we, on the live stream, and we spoke about how impressive Jean-Philippe Gbamin was, at least for the the clips that we seen him in. Obviously, he got the assist for Anthony Gordon's goal. In regards to Beningame, look, I don't know. It's always interesting because you see the likes of Beningame in training and these types of they're not young players anymore, are they? Benny Beningame must be about 23, 24 now. So, and you're seeing them in training. Let me get it up actually, because I want to know how old Benny Beningame actually is. He's 22, only 22. So again, maybe I was a little bit exaggerative with that, but 22 years old. Again, you would expect Benny Beningame, if he's going to get his opportunity at Everton, for it to be this season. And again, like I said, if this would have been under a certain other manager, I'd have said Benny Beningame's got absolutely no chance. He'll probably go on loan again, maybe even be sold permanently. But we don't know what Rafael Benitez is going to want to do with these young players. We don't know what the future lies for Anthony Gordon. We don't know what the future lies for an Ellis Sims. We don't know what the future lies for, a Benny Beningame. Personally, for me, in regards to Benny Beningame, I think he's at that age now where if he's not deemed good enough for the first team, I'd like Everton to sell him, try and get a bit of money for him. And for Benny Beningame's, career as well, go out and go and sign for the team where you'll be playing week in, week out, where you'll be playing consistently. The likes of Anthony Gordon and Ellis Sims, for me, I'd like them to go out on loan again, get another season. Maybe Anthony Gordon go to somewhere like we've seen, obviously, Billy Gilmore of Chelsea signing for Norwich on loan very recently. Again, Norwich have assessed him as a player and gone, right, okay, he's very good, but he's very young, so we want him to go to a Premier League team and play week in, week out. He'll do that at Norwich. Maybe Everton can try and look for that for Anthony Gordon as well. Or maybe Rafael Benitez will go, okay, we're going to struggle with FFP this season. We're going to struggle to really improve every area identified. So we'll keep an Anthony Gordon and see what he can do. See how he can impress, because he might turn out to be our answer at left wing or right wing, mightn't he? We just don't know. We'll have to wait and see what Everton decide to do. Ian says, morning Cam, what do you think about Small holding Everton to ransom? Thierry Small, yeah, look, again, the reality of the Thierry Small situation is Thierry Small's a left back at Everton Football Club. He's 16 years old, I believe, and he is wanting, probably not first team football, but he's wanting very close to first team football. And the reality of that situation is Everton have got one of the, if not the best left backs in world football, in Luca Dean at left back, and then behind Luca Dean you've got Nels Nkunku, who again is very good, a little bit older, a little bit more experienced than Thierry Small, looking like a top player. And then even behind him you've got Ben Godfrey, who we've seen over the last 12 months can play at left back and can do it brilliantly as well. So Thierry Small is probably our fourth choice left back, if not third choice left back. And obviously he's wanting to go to a club where he's a little bit higher up the pecking order. And listen, to be honest, if Thierry Small wants to go and test his luck, if he thinks going to Manchester United or Arsenal or Chelsea or any of the other teams that have been rumoured means that he's going to start playing week in, week out in the Premier League, he's got another thing coming. He won't be anywhere near that first team. He's got more chance of getting an Everton's first team than he has any of the clubs that he's been linked with. Seen him linked with Bayern Munich a couple of weeks ago. He's getting in over Alphonso Davies, is he? Absolutely not. Maybe he'll get more opportunities because of the way the German league works and the way the German teams utilise young players, potentially. But he wouldn't get more opportunities at Man United than he's getting at Everton. Certainly not. He wouldn't get more opportunities at Arsenal than he's getting at Everton. So again, I think maybe Everton need that conversation with Thierry Small and need to sit down and say, look, it's your choice, it's your career. If you want to move because you feel like you're not going to get as many first team opportunities here as you would elsewhere, then that's fine. But just remember that the grass isn't always greener, and these clubs will promise you the world, and then you'll just be another player in their academy that probably ends up getting loaned out to somebody, and then they make 10-15 million on you. And maybe that's what Thierry Small wants. Maybe eventually he wants to move to a club on a permanent deal, even if it's a club that isn't as sort of prestigious as Everton or Man United or Arsenal, and ultimately play week in, week out. But we'll have to wait and see. Again, I don't think he's particularly holding the club to ransom, is he? I don't think it's anything to do with money. Don't think it's anything to do with fees or wage. I think it's more to do with opportunities in the first team. And Thierry Small's probably looking at it going, well, I ain't getting in over Luca Dean, and I ain't getting in over Nkunku, and Ben Godfrey's just been given a chance to play there and being absolutely bossed there for 5, 6, 7 weeks on the bounce, so I'm probably not getting in over him either. So look, we'll have to wait and see. If Thierry Small leaves, it will be disappointing, because he genuinely is one of the best players in the world of his age in that position, if not the best player in the world of his age in that position. But I'm not going to lose massive amounts of sleep over it, because what more can Everton do in this situation? What are we meant to do? Sell Luca Dean, move Niles Nkunku on, and tell Ben Godfrey he's never playing at left back again, and have a 16-year-old lad playing week in, week out in the Premier League because that's what he wants, or have him playing every now and then because that's what he wants. That's not how football works, is it? You've got to work your way up. You've got to work hard. Let's be honest. Let's remember as well. Thierry Small is still very, very young. There's no saying that by the time Thierry Small gets to 21, 22 years old, he won't be in Everton's first team. He won't be playing week in, week out. There's no saying that. There's no saying that he won't be, gaining Premier League experience when he's 18, 19. But that's still 2-3 years off for Thierry Small. Alex Hayes says, I'd like Kean to stay, but I don't see him starting with Richie and Dom. Well, again, depending on FFP and where Everton sort of sit with FFP, then maybe Moise Kean, Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin will get a lot of opportunities together. Who knows? Dugout says, Moise Kean should have been in the Italian squad. He did enough in that PSG side, missed out on a winner's medal. Yeah, again, not great for Moise Kean, obviously. I think he was a part of the what do they call it? The Italian squad. The squad before it gets trimmed down, like Ben Godfrey was with England, and then he got taken out of it. I think he got substituted in a game against maybe San Marino in one of their friendlies before the Euros, and then wasn't taken to the Euros. It is unfortunate because he did do enough for PSG, and it would have been great to see him, in that Italian squad. And listen, it wasn't great to see Italy win the other day, of course, but if Moise Kean was to pick up a medal, then at least we'd have got something out of it. Jason says, hi Cam, I've always wanted to give Moise another chance. I feel most of his troubles were down to being young and alone and stuck in this very different world. I think he could stay. Well, it's a good point, Jason. It's a really good point, and it's something that I've alluded to a number of times, and it's something that I've alluded to a lot in the last couple of weeks in the wake of the Rafa Benitez news. Is that there's a lot to be said, and we should all remember this. There's a lot to be said about a footballer or a manager who is comfortable in his environment. It's so easy, and the reason I say this is because I heard a lot of Evertonians say, Rafael Benitez is only taking the Everton job because it's comfortable, because it's close to home, because he's near to his home. Well, if we look at it and we assess it and we analyse it, as Rafa Benitez would say, it's so beneficial to Everton that Rafa Benitez is taking a job that's close to home. Let's be honest, he's not just a manager that lives around the corner. He's got no experience. This fella's won a Champions League. The fact that he lives around the corner is a massive added benefit, because you've heard stories about players, Ademola Lookman being one, who come to Everton, and because it's a new environment, because they're very young, because they're on their own. I think Ademola Lookman was living out of a hotel for his career at Everton, so he was practically turning up to training, going home and sitting in a hotel room. Now, I love a good hotel when you're away on your holidays with a nice spa, and you're in the room every now and then and you're watching a bit of telly while you're getting changed, etc. But I wouldn't want to live in a hotel for 2 years. I can imagine it to be absolutely horrifying. You're on your own, very small confined space, 4 rooms, and that's your home. That's not just the room you're staying in while you're visiting another city. That's your home for that time. And I'm sure a lot of players have been in that situation, and managers as well. I know Jose Mourinho lived in a hotel when he was at Manchester United. So there's a lot to be said about a man and a manager or players that are in a comfortable environment, that like where they're staying. And I know Moise Kean wasn't staying in a hotel, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't alone. That doesn't mean that he didn't feel stuck. That doesn't mean that he didn't feel a little bit overwhelmed by being in a completely new city at such a young age. And look, who's to say that that'll be any different for Moise Kean this season? He's again coming into a new city, maybe he's a little bit more settled now because he understands he's a little bit older, but there's a lot to be said about players that are, ultimately comfortable in their own environment, and managers that are comfortable in their own environment. For me, anyway, we have to look beyond the footballing stuff and look at, footballers are human beings at the end of the day. They're human beings, and if you were to say to me, right, Cam, okay, you're going to do a job, you're going to be a quantity surveyor, whatever. Now, you can either be a quantity surveyor in Liverpool and do 12 months living in your own home, or we'll get you a new home and you'll be comfortable and you'll be around your family and you'll be around your friends and you'll know the area, or you can go and do it in London for 12 months and you'll be sat in a hotel room for the whole entire time, Monday to Sunday, living in a hotel room. What would you do? Or what would you be more comfortable doing? Where do you think you would impress the most? I'd say, well, obviously in Liverpool, because I'm home with my family, I know the area with my friends. I've got that time to chill of a weekend, not just sit in a hotel room doing nothing. It's a lot for me anyway. Personally, for me, I think a lot into stuff like that because I think it needs to be thought about. Some fans might say, shut up, these players are on 120 grand a week, that doesn't matter, but I think it does. If you're enjoying, by the way, hit that like button, only takes a second. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe. Hey, the Dugout Football Channel says hit those likes up, people, thank you very much. Doug, really appreciate it. So says, let's be honest, with our FFP we need to sell Moise Kean in order to buy. And Jason says, plus it would save us having to purchase another striker maybe. Well, let's go into talking about FFP then, because it certainly was it certainly is a topic of conversation when talking about Moise Kean, and it was the next, I think, talking point in this topic, as well as the implications, the financial implications. Caddy says no tea or coffee for me, it's cherry Pepsi Max. Cherry Pepsi Max at this time, fair play to you, belter drink, by the way. And Nathan says, good evening from Adelaide, Australia, mate. Thank you very much. Really appreciate you joining us, Nathan. Hope it's all good over in Australia. Anyway, financial implications of Moise Kean's move or non-move, of course. And this is something that we have to talk about because, like I said before, I feel like a lot of Evertonians, and probably Everton as a football club as well, Marcel Brands, maybe, some other manager before he got off, and probably even Rafael Benitez when he was assessing the Everton job prior to obviously coming in, we're probably looking at Moise Kean as, right, okay, let's assess the squad after the season, let's assess the squad going into the summer. Okay, we've got Moise Kean here, probably going to sell him, we'll make a bit of money off him, and that will give us the leeway to buy X, Y and Z. Now, I'm not saying that the only way Everton buy X, Y and Z is if they sell Moise Kean, but I would assume that plan A, plan one, the first plan would have been that we sell Moise Kean, and then we've got some room to buy, X, Y, and Z. Again, I might be completely wrong, but that was what I would assume, because we were all thinking the same thing, weren't we? 4 or 5 weeks ago, prior to the Euros, 4 or 5 weeks ago, prior to Rafael Benitez coming in, we were all thinking the same thing. Moise Kean will leave this summer, we'll get a little bit of money for him, and we'll be able to reinvest that money in key areas on the pitch that we need to reinvest in. We were even all talking about bringing in a backup striker. That wouldn't have even been a conversation if we'd have even thought Moise Kean could stay at Everton. Now again, that probably is still the same situation, to be honest with you, because I still do think Moise Kean will want to leave, and I can see PSG putting a bid in before now and the end of the transfer window. So the situation probably very much is still, okay, you sell Moise Kean, you bring in this amount of money, and then you reinvest that in these key areas. And I think that's what Everton was sort of hoping would happen. And I think that's why Everton are standing very strong on the idea of not sending Moise Kean back on loan, because they're probably trying to prod PSG into going, okay, do you know what, we'll pay that money. Look, FFP is a mad thing, and it's a very difficult thing to understand, and it's a very difficult thing to grasp your head around. But from the very basics of it, from what I understand, and again, I don't 100% know everything about FFP, but from the very basics of it, as to what I understand, is that Everton, practically, if we're going to spend any real big money, we could probably bring in maybe 1 or 2 players without the sale of any player. But if we're going to really heavily invest this squad like we know we need to, we're probably going to need to sell a player. Now, we obviously were thinking a couple of weeks ago that would be Moise Kean, and Moise Kean sale, you get 30 odd million for him. I think you can then spend double that, maybe a little bit more, and then you reinvest that into areas such as right back, right wing, left wing, etc. Now, if we're not to sell Moise Kean, and we still want to improve all those various areas on the pitch, we might still be able to buy a right back, maybe another player as well, but we're probably not going to be able to improve 4, 5, 6 positions on the pitch that we know we need to, unless we sell somebody else within the squad. Now, like I said yesterday, or it might have been on Monday, there is that overbearing, horrible thought across our shoulder that we might have to sell somebody else, i.e., again, throwing names out there before anybody jumps on me, a Calvert-Lewin, a Richarlison, a Luka Dean, a Jordan Pickford, etc., a Yerry Mina, who was rumoured yesterday to, for potentially leaving Everton Football Club. Again, I don't really believe that rumour. It come from sport, and I think it's an utter load of balls, but there you go. But there is that sort of horrible feeling and a little bit of a devil on our shoulder that we're sort of just going, no, go away, you go away, we're not listening to you. But that little person on our shoulder is saying, well, Everton might have to sell a big star this summer in order to reinvest in other areas on the pitch, if Moise Kean isn't going to leave the football club. And look, that's something that none of us want to think about, and that's something that none of us want to entertain. But I do look at it and think, well, if Everton aren't to sell one of those players, which I hope we don't, I hope Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I hope Richarlison, I hope Jordan Pickford, I hope Luka Dean, all of those players, even Yerry Mina are Everton players next season. I really, really do hope they are, because in order to build upon this squad, we can't really just go selling our best players. That's another backward step for me in this Everton world of backward steps all the time. But I do also sit here and think, well, how are Everton going to get around FFP? How are Everton going to get around the spending caps, or the spending caps that certainly Everton have got due to previous finances and being in a little bit of trouble with that, without the sale of players? Now, it's very easy to say, we sell Iwobi for 10 million, we sell Sigurdsson for 10, we sell Bernard for 10, we sell Gomez for 15, we sell this player for 10 as well, and there you go, we've made 60 million and we go and respend it. But no one's bidding that amount of money for any of those players. If we sell Bernard, it'll be for the minimal price. Nobody's going to come in and pay what we want for Iwobi and pay his wages. Nobody's really going to do it with Andre Gomez either, I can't see. Sigurdsson, I think he'll get another contract and stay another year. And even if he does, who's going to pay that much money for a player in the last year of his contract, who's of the age that Gylfi Sigurdsson's at? So wipe that theory out the water that we can sell all of these players that we have deemed not good enough for 10 million each. It's never happening, never ever happening. In order to sell players, you have to have teams that actively want to bring those players into their football clubs. I remember I had this I had this discussion a couple of months back when we were talking about Wilfried Zaha, and I said, no, he's at that age now, he's got injury issues, and plus he cost us 40-50 million. And I remember somebody said to me, it might have been on the comments, it might have been on Twitter, might have even been in person, one of my friends or family said, well, Cam, why would we spend 40 million on Zaha when we could just give Palace Iwobi and Delph and then give them 5 million and we'd get Zaha? And I said, well, put yourself in Palace's situation. Why would Palace go, yeah, okay, we'll sell our biggest and best asset for £5 million and we'll bring in 2 players that we understand and know aren't that great and aren't going to make that big of an impact on our season? These football clubs aren't stupid. They're not just going to accept our deadwood because we don't want it, or accept the players that we've deemed not good enough because we've deemed them not good enough and they'll have them. It's not going to happen. You might get rid of 1 or 2 of them if you're lucky, but certainly not for big money. Certainly not for big money. Everton would criticise. We'd all criticise Everton if they went and give, Manchester United 25 million for Juan Mata, because why would we do that? He's at an age where he's not worth anywhere near that, and he's not going to have a massive impact on Everton. But they're probably wanting to get rid of him. But it's not as easy as that, is it? Let's be honest. So I really worry about, I'm intrigued about how Everton would make their way surrounding financial fair play, if we aren't to sell Moise Kean, or for that matter anybody else within the squad, or anybody of significant value within the squad. Now, there is that theory that Everton will just go balls to financial fair play. We don't care. We're spending as much money as possible. You can fine us and we'll meet you in court. That is a theory that I would love the idea of, and I'd love Everton to sort of do what Man City done and just gone, actually, do you know what? Though there's 6 football clubs there that completely and utterly tried to walk away and steal football, and you done nothing. We'll give them a slap on the wrist and a £2 million fine because you were scared about them ruining your brand. Nothing to do with football. You were scared about them losing money for your brand. So we're just going to go and spend 400 million this summer on 15 boss players, and you can fine us 6 million, or you can take us to court, whatever. We'll do you in court as well. We're not listening to the rules because they didn't listen to them and they got nothing done to them. I'd love the idea of Everton doing that and being that disruptive brand that they seem to think that they are, even though I would heavily disagree. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Everton are the type of club. I don't think the higher ups at Everton are the types of people to have that ruthlessness about them. I think the higher ups at Everton, a lot of them are happy for Everton to be seen as a very professional club, and a club that does everything in the right way, and a club that works in the right manner, and that of course would be going against all of that, and therefore I don't think that Everton will do that. So that theory I think is parked for the moment. I think Farhad Moshiri would maybe want to do it, but I think there's various other people at the club that would be against that. So if you're parking the theory of spending a load of money and not caring about the rules, if you're parking the theory of selling any of our players with massive value because we don't want that to happen, then what is the other option? What are the other options? Again, I don't know if a Mr. Alisher Usmanov can somehow, some way try and find a way to gift Everton an awful lot of money, or gift Farhad Moshiri an awful lot of money. I don't know if Alisher Usmanov can sponsor the toilets in the Park End for 700 million, or sponsor a certain hot dog that someone might buy on match day 1 for 45 million, and then he might sponsor he can sponsor the Mighty Blues for 10k if he wants, 20k, something like that. If anybody knows Alisher Usmanov, get it out there. He sponsored us if he wants. But I really, again, I'm not a multi-billion pound businessman, so I don't know the ways around this situation. I really, really don't know the ways around this situation. I would like to hope that those at Everton, i.e. your Farhad Moshiri's, your Alisher Usmanovs, even though he's not officially at Everton, unofficially at Everton, I'd like to think that those people, given their history and given their stature as billionaires and accountants and this, that and the other, I'd like to think that they do know a way around this situation, and that it is as simple as Alisher Usmanov sponsoring the toilets in the Gladys seat and giving us an extra 400 million. I don't even think that would pass the rules, to be honest with you. But again, I really don't know. I can't sit here and pretend to know how Everton are going to deal with this situation this summer, because I don't know how Everton are going to deal with this with this situation this summer. I think Everton's plan originally was, okay, we'll sell Moise Kean, we'll get a little bit of money back for him, and we'll reinvest that money into the squad, and therefore we'll be within the rules, there'll be no issues, bish bash bosh. And now you're looking at a situation where Moise Kean could potentially stay this summer. Do I think he will? No. I think eventually this conversation will be a nonsense, because I think eventually he'll leave. But there is that possibility that he does stay. There is that possibility that PSG do stick with their guns and say, no, we're not paying the money. We don't want to pay the money. We're not paying it. So therefore, you can stay at Everton. And then Everton are in a situation where they're sort of going, okay, well that money that we thought we had to reinvest into the squad is no longer there now. So what is Plan B? And I really, really do hope that Everton are preparing, because what Everton have to do now, in my opinion. Again, I'm not trying to tell people how to run the club. I'm not trying to tell people what to do with their money, etc. But for me, in my opinion, what Everton should be doing now is preparing for an eventuality that Moise Kean is part of the Everton squad next season. Everton should be talking to Rafael Benitez and going, what's your thoughts on Moise Kean? And he might say, if we get a bid, then sell him because we need to. But if we don't get a bid, I want him to be part of this squad. Or he might say, forget about wanting to, getting a bid, not getting a bid. I want to convince this lad to stay at Everton because I think he's got a future. Now Everton should be preparing for Moise Kean to stay at the football club and not relying on. I just hope that there's not people at Everton sort of sitting there going, okay, yeah, we've got these various transfer targets. We've got a right back, or a right winger, left winger, and we'll sign all these when Moise Kean leaves. And I just hope we're not sitting here, when the transfer window shuts, going, well, we could have signed all those players if Moise Kean would have left, but because he hasn't and we didn't have any plan B, we haven't really improved the squad. I just hope that there's a plan B, there's a plan C. I hope that Everton have seriously got a plan as to, if Moise Kean doesn't leave, how we can still seriously invest in improving this squad, because we need to seriously invest in improving this squad going forward, don't we? Let's be honest. Because if we don't, we're not going to achieve anything next season. So it's interesting. It really, really is interesting, because Moise Kean's future at Everton isn't just regarding Moise Kean's future and whether or not he as a player will be here next season. It's regarding Everton financially and how we will or will not be able to improve this squad. And if we do improve this squad with Moise Kean staying, then there is that overriding fear of, does this mean that somebody else is going to leave, i.e. the players I mentioned previously? And if none of those players do leave and we do seriously improve the squad, and Moise Kean is a member of the squad that's being seriously improved, then how has that managed to happen? Have we just gone, forget the rules, we don't care, we're breaking them, or have we found some way around it? I don't know. But yeah, like I said, very, very interesting situation at the moment. Everton seem very, very stern on the situation, which is that they won't loan him. They won't loan Moise Kean back out. If PSG want to sign Moise Kean, they can sign him on a permanent deal, and if not, he won't be leaving. And the ball for me is in PSG's court now, is to state, right, okay, we either want to sign him on a permanent or we don't want to sign him on a permanent. And if they don't want to sign him on a permanent, and Moise Kean is to stay at Everton and he's happy with that, what does that mean for incoming transfers? Now, do I think that Everton will, this is going to lead to the eventual question, isn't it, do I think Everton will wait to sell Moise Kean before making a signing? I don't. I expect Everton to make a signing or two, at least one or two, without even thinking about players going out the door. I do. I expect Everton to hopefully be bringing in a right back without the need for selling a Moise Kean or anybody else, and probably bringing in maybe one more player as well as a right back without the need to sell a Moise Kean or anybody else. But I think that's as far as it'll go, one or two players, and then we'll start to see the stories of, we've brought in, argument's sake, Denzel Dumfries and I don't know, maybe a centre midfielder or something, and then we'll start to see the stories of now Everton really could do with selling, because they're really tight on that financial fair play sort of bracket. So I don't think that our entire summer in regards to incomings depends on a Moise Kean leaving or somebody else leaving, but I do think in order for us to drastically improve the squad, it will depend on that, and we might only be able to bring in one or two players without the sale of a player that's going to bring in a lot of money, or a Moise Kean, etc. Unless, like I said, miraculously some team comes in and goes, I want to take a Bernard, a Wobie, a Gomez, Delph, Sigurdsson, all of these players off your hands, and we'll give you 50 million for them, which, let's be honest, isn't going to happen. Anyway, let's get in the comments before we do finish up the stream. Gareth Johnson, sell Richarlison and Kean. The latter will never play another competition fixture for the club, just can't see it. I wouldn't sell Richarlison personally. If we get a decent bid for Moise Kean and he wants to leave, then I think it's obviously best for both parties, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But I personally wouldn't be selling Richarlison, just my opinion. Jab says we can get players off the wage bill like Coleman, Bernard, Gomez, Kenny, Iwobi and Delph. Just think how many thousand Delph earns just for turning off for training. They'll need to get rid. We do need to get rid, but who's going to sign Fabian Delph on those wages? Who's going to sign Fabian Delph and give him what he wants? Fabian Delph's very comfortable at Everton. He doesn't play football matches. He trains every day, which means he basically has a kickabout for a couple of hours every day, which I'd love to do. He doesn't really get called upon on match days because he's not good enough, and B, he's never fit. And he spends most of his season on the physio bed talking to the doctors, earning 50-60 grand a week, whatever it is. So he's very comfortable at Everton, Fabian Delph. Jab says, I hope we keep Kean as we need another striker anyway, so no need to spend money in that area. Fair enough. Gareth says, with FFP sponsorship, all deals are essentially audited for fair market value. The sponsoring of toilets is not an option. I know, mate, I know. I was only messing with that one. Obviously, that was a bit of an exaggeration. Little bit of comedy for you this morning. It's 12 minutes past 10. Thought I'd throw a little bit of comedy in there. But it is that type of situation, isn't it? If Everton aren't to sell, and Everton aren't to completely forget all of the rules and go rogue, then what assets do we have that maybe could be sponsored and get away with that? How do Everton work around that? Chap says let him leave on a free. Well, his contract would have to go, wouldn't he? Or would have to terminate it, and again, it'd cost us more money. EFC DCN says, wasn't that the plan with Bramley-Moore, Doc? What plan? Yeah, I believe. Well, we know that Alisher Usmanov and USM have got first dibs on the naming rights of Bramley-Moore, Doc, but that money probably won't come in until Bramley-Moore, Doc is up, or certainly that deal is confirmed. It won't be coming in this summer, I would assume anyway. Jason said if Everton done that, we'd get demoted to League One, so I'm not breaking the rules. Yeah, I know. Do you know if you to say to me, right, Cam, Everton can go and break any FFP rule he wants, can go and spend as much money as they want, and they will get the same fine as those Super League clubs got for trying to destroy football. You'd get a fine of, again, a couple of £1 million. I'd go and do it 100%. But knowing Everton, we'd get demoted to the National League, we'd get our stadium taken off us, we'd get all our players taken off us, we wouldn't be able to use the name Everton, we'd get stripped of every single thing we owned, and we'd have to start again, because they're not asked about Everton, because we don't bring in that value that Man United or Liverpool or Arsenal bring to the Premier League. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. It only takes a second. Really do appreciate that. Alex says, why can't Machete give 200 million to us? He's the owner and should be allowed to. If we get fined, we can just go to court and bring up the Super League punishments. Again, I think that's a topic of conversation that a lot of people have been trying to have. Jason says, not saying Pickford to go, but I'm guessing after this Euro performance we could get 50-60 million, and that's the worry, mate. I really don't want Jordan Pickford to go. I really like Jordan Pickford, and I think if we're wanting to build a successful team to challenge in Europe, Jordan Pickford needs to be a part of that. I think he's one of the best goalkeepers in the world. In fact, he is one of the best goalkeepers in the world. He proved that in the Euros, but that's that sort of devil on our shoulder going, well, a team might bid 40, 50, 60 million for Jordan Pickford. Is that way of taking that? I don't think it is, personally, but who knows. Jack the Lad says, Moise proved himself at PSG, he can be a star here, there you go. Andy says he changed agent himself. He's owned back, he's 16 and a mercenary already. Just forget about him, he'll be trading at Carrington next week, talking about Thierry Small there. Well, if he is, good luck to him. If he is, good luck to him, because he won't get anywhere near as many opportunities at Man United in the future as that he would have at Everton. Alex says, someone needs to tell Small he can earn his place. If he's missing, saying he can F off. Well, again, yeah, those are the Athletic put out an article, didn't he, saying that he hasn't yet returned to Finch Farm. Now that, again, that could be for a number of different reasons, but that's not great. If he's been informed to return to training and he's not returning to training. The golfer says, personally, I'd sell the likes of Gordon, not good enough for the level we aspire to be. Would he get in Spurs, Arsenal, United, Liverpool squad? I think not. Fair enough. Jonathan says, Small is coming from his advisors, not his players. Yeah, again, nothing surprising there, mate. Nothing surprising there. Sign Kadioglu says Z's. I'm not too sure on him, to be honest with you. Jonathan says, hopefully we will announce the backroom staff. Yeah. There you go. Football fans though, it says FFP is financial fair play. Jason says he must understand he must admit he doesn't really understand it. Neither do I, mate, to be honest with you. Neither do I. The golfer says just put FFP in the bin. If only. Jason says if we tried to bend the rules like some other clubs did, we'd get fined, but other clubs don't get in trouble. Should be one rule for everybody, not just for some. And that's exactly what it is, isn't it? It's one for one and another rule for everybody else. Jason says, yeah, Robert wasn't either Mbappe or Neymar. They loaned to get around it. Callum says, who do you think we will sell this season? I think it's going to be a very, very tricky to sell the likes of Sigurdsson and Gomez, who I think should be sold quicker, more mobile players. I won't be in the 10 if we sell Sigurdsson. I won't be able to get a lot more chances in the 10 if we sell Gylfi Sigurdsson, I would assume. Probably even James in the 10 as well. We're going to talk about James over the next couple of days or so as well, because I think he's a very interesting topic of conversation to talk about now. But look, again, you can only sell players that teams want to buy, and that's where I think Everton are in this sort of situation, is to look at, and we mightn't want to talk about it, we might want to think about it, but you look at this Everton squad and you look at players of any real value and players that teams are going to want to buy. You are looking at a Calvert-Lewin, a Richarlison, a Jordan Pickford after the tournament, a Luca Dean. Is anybody really going to be that interested in spending that much money on a Delph or a Gomez or an Iwobi? I don't know. I don't think so, personally. So that's the worry, isn't it? If Everton have to sell and it's not going to be Moise Kean, the worry is, right, well, who is it going to be? C-Play says, when will we be able to watch the pre-season games? I'm sure we'll be able to watch the Florida Cup, mate. I'm sure we'll be able to watch the Florida Cup, which starts in a couple of weeks' time. So keep your eye out on the channel. We'll be doing another news video over the next few days or so, and we'll be talking a bit more about the pre-season games, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more information on that. Robert says, Moise Kean is awful. Is the loan with a view to a permanent way around FFP for PSG? Probably. PSG are probably trying to scare FFP as well, to be honest with you. That's probably the reason as to why they don't want to sign him on a permanent yet, is because they're trying to move around FFP. So yeah, no, spot on. Joe Williams says, I'd rather cash in on him now and go out and sign a more experienced striker to push DCL and invest the money into other positions. We need to strengthen him. Fair enough. Liam says, Kean and Small both go, regardless if it's the agents in the ear. I don't care, to be honest. If you don't want to play for Everton, then you can leave. If they want to graft, then stay. There you go. Basic Trigonometry says, bloody hell, Cam, I've only just got up. And Sol says, early one today. It's an early one, mate. It's an early one. You know, we love the early ones sometimes. I've only just got up as well, but we're here to talk about Everton from the minute we wake up to the minute we go a kip. Alex says, Benitez seems to be in control of progressing transfers and helping out, inspiring youth into the first team, training the players, acting professional and doing press conferences. Yeah, there you go. Rafa Benitez will have his first press conference, by the way, today at 1:30 this afternoon at USM Finch Farm. We'll be covering it on our Twitter. Pretty much everything he says will be covered on our Twitter at MightyBluesYT, so don't forget to check that out. And then we'll probably have a little video out later just recapping the press conference and what got said and stuff like that. And I would assume, don't get me wrong, I might be wrong here, but I would assume that Rafa Benitez will be asked a question about Moise Kean later today. Jason says, I don't understand PSG. They're meant to be mega rich, but they always seem to be wanting to loan players. Probably FFP, as mentioned before. Alex says, what's your opinion on Thierry Small? There you go, we just mentioned that. Eugene says, Chelsea set a Kurt Zouma price tag. Stephen says, if any club will make a stupid decision, it'll be us. And Nathan says, Cam, just join the chat. What do you make of the Thierry Small situation? As I've just said, mate, look, if he wants to leave, if he thinks the grass is greener, then good luck to him. But I think it does stink of somebody working on behalf of Thierry Small and not necessarily a 16-year-old lad who probably hasn't got these ideas of grandeur. It's probably somebody else that have got these ideas for him. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. Only takes a second. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe. Last few comments then before we finish up. Alex's thoughts on Kurt Zouma, great loan in Everton, I'd love him back. Good player. I think there's better out there that cost cheaper, but I would like him back at Everton. I do think he's a good player. Football fan thought says, the funny thing is I thought Delph was a good sign at the time. I think we all did, to be honest with you, mate. I think we all thought it was decent value for money, but obviously not. Teddy says, hard to convince a kid they have a chance with our record. We're giving youth a chance under the last few managers. Yeah, but maybe that's different now with Rafael Benitez, and that is something exciting going forward, isn't it? As to whether Rafael Benitez will give these young players a chance next season. He certainly gave them a chance in the first pre-season game against Accrington Stanley, and look, it worked. Tom Cannon, Lewis Gibson, Anthony Gordon, all on the score sheet in that game. Chen La says, morning Cam, your team's looking better now, thank you very much. It's got a little bit longer, mate. It's got a little bit longer, to be honest, and I've actually combed it over today rather than leaving it flat, just to get it out my face a little bit more, but I appreciate that, Chen La, mate. And Glenn says, Cam, you hero. Nice one, mate. Nice one, Glenn. Remind me, didn't we bring in Fabian Delph as a role model for our younger players? Why didn't we include some sort of termination clause in his contract, or did we? Probably not. Probably not. I don't know, but probably not. And yet, we brought him in to bring that experience of a Premier League winner, didn't we? And yeah, didn't really work, did it? Anyway, look, we're going to finish it up there then. If you have enjoyed this stream, please do hit that like button. Massive thanks to everybody for watching live and getting involved in the live comments. Really, really do appreciate it. If you're watching the YouTube video, let us know your comments. Let us know your thoughts on the Moise Kean situation. Do you want to keep Moise Kean? Do you want to sell Moise Kean? If we don't sell Moise Kean, how do you see us getting around this FFP situation? Do you think we'll sell a big name player, as per se, to get around it? Or do you think there'll be some other way that we manage to move our way around the FFP stuff? And if we are to sell Moise Kean, how much would you take for him? How much do you think is acceptable? And you know, personally, would you want it taking away the FFP and stuff like that? Personally, do you want to keep Moise Kean at Everton? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Massive thank you for watching. If you could hit that like button, it would mean a great deal to me. We'll be back tomorrow morning talking more about Everton Football Club. I think we're going to talk about James Rodriguez tomorrow morning, unless anything breaking comes before then. We'll try and have a video out later today regarding the press conference. It won't be a live stream, it will be a video, but we'll try and have a video out, talking about the press conference and yeah, you know what's going on there. I think the stream's decided to lag itself, which is great, just near the end, so bear with me 2 seconds. Should come back on. We back? I think we're back. Just before the end of the stream, the computer decides to do its typical, I'm going to throw myself off a bridge and not come back. But I think we're back. Anyway, look, big thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. James says, had he already talked about Dumfries? Me? I haven't talked about Dumfries today. We talked about Dumfries a couple of days ago. And as to whether or not he'll stay at the football club, I think it still froze. It should sort itself out in a minute. If you can hear me, let me know. There you go. I think we're back. Look, the Denzel Dumfries situation is that, according to some rumours, Everton have opened talks with Denzel Dumfries. and we'll have to see how that one goes. Eugene Maguire says, see about the Toffees. Thank you very much, Eugene. Ian says, hope Rafa addresses the Smalling matter. Smaller matter? What? Chris Smalling? I didn't know there was a smaller matter, to be honest with you. Apologies for the lag, by the way, there. I think it sorted itself out now. I do apologise. If you're still enjoying, hit the like button. If you're new, subscribe. Chenlar says, nice one, Cam. See you, mate. Nice one, Chenlar. I really appreciate that. And Nate Duncan says, sell Kean for 50 million. Well, again, mate, we're not going to get 50 million for him. So, listen, I'd sell Moise Kean for 150 million if we could, but we're not going to get that money. We'll probably get max 25, 30 now, which the club might take and might deem as acceptable. PSG aren't even wanting to give us 2 million for him. They're wanting to send him out on loan again. So, look, we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. And, of course, any breaking news we'll have on the channel as and when it happens. So, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out. Hit that like button if you have enjoyed it. And, yeah, big thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon on The Mighty Blues.